Have you ever looked at someone who swore they loved you and wondered how that same person managed to hurt you more deeply than anyone else ever has? One moment you were put on a pedestal. You were their favorite person, their inspiration, their center. And then without warning, the warmth vanished. They became distant, cutting, dismissive, or quietly cruel. It leaves you confused, questioning not just the relationship, but yourself. How can someone claim love while treating you with such hostility? And why does it feel like beneath the surface, they don't just misunderstand you, but actively resent you? If you don't understand what's happening, you'll keep chasing validation from someone who is psychologically incapable of giving it. You'll keep trying to earn back a version of love that was never real to begin with. And over time, that confusion can turn inward. You may start believing that you are the problem, that you're too sensitive, too demanding, too broken. But the truth is far more disturbing, and far less about you than you've been led to believe. To understand why narcissists seem to hate the very people they claim to love, you have to abandon the idea that their emotional world works like yours. For most people, love and hate are opposites. Love is about connection, care, and mutual recognition. Hate is about rejection, distance, and wanting someone out of your life. But narcissistic psychology doesn't operate on that spectrum. For a narcissist, love and hate are not emotional bonds. They are tools. They are methods of control. When a narcissist says they love you, they are not responding to who you are as a person. They are responding to what you provide. Validation, admiration, attention, loyalty, status, emotional labor. You are not loved as a separate individual with your own needs and boundaries. You are valued as a function. And when that function stops working the way they expect, love does not fade into sadness or disappointment. It mutates into resentment. That resentment doesn't mean they want you gone. In fact, it means the opposite. Narcissistic hatred is not about pushing you away. It is about pulling you closer, tightening the emotional grip. Because for them, distance is dangerous. Distance forces them to confront their own emptiness. As long as you are emotionally entangled, whether through affection, conflict, or fear, they don't have to look inward. This is why their hatred feels so intense and so personal. It's not a passing emotion. It's a strategy. As long as they can direct their discomfort outward onto you, they can preserve their fragile sense of self. If they can convince themselves that you are the problem, they never have to deal with their own inadequacy, shame, or insecurity. Narcissists rely on what psychologists call narcissistic supply. This supply can come in many forms: praise, attention, submission, emotional reactions, even distress. Whether they are being adored or being feared, the common denominator is that you are emotionally engaged with them. You are reacting to them. And as long as that reaction exists, they feel powerful, relevant, and in control. This is why the shift from idealization to devaluation happens so abruptly. In the beginning, you are everything they ever wanted. You are special, different, perfect. But those expectations are impossible to sustain. They are not based on reality. They are based on fantasy. And the moment you show independence, assert a boundary, or stop feeding their ego in the way they demand, the fantasy collapses. When that happens, admiration turns into blame. Suddenly, you are accused of being selfish, ungrateful, difficult, or cold. The very qualities they once praised are reframed as flaws. This devaluation isn't random. It serves a purpose. It keeps you destabilized. It keeps you questioning yourself. And most importantly, it keeps you trying to get back to the good version of the relationship, the one that felt safe and loving at the beginning. Hatred, in this context, is adhesive. It keeps you stuck. If the narcissist truly detached, you might heal. You might regain clarity. You might realize how dysfunctional the dynamic was. But by oscillating between affection and hostility, they keep you emotionally invested. Their contempt becomes a hook. This is why their cruelty often feels obsessive. It's not just anger, it's maintenance. Every insult, every cutting remark, every guilt-laden comment is designed to provoke a response. They want you to explain yourself, defend yourself, apologize, chase clarity. The moment you do, they have succeeded. You are back in their emotional orbit. And this doesn't always look loud or explosive. Not all narcissists rage or scream. Many operate in far subtler ways. Covert narcissists in particular understand the power of withdrawal. They weaponize silence. They use indifference as punishment. They know that being ignored, dismissed, or emotionally erased can be just as destabilizing as being openly attacked. They don't need to raise their voice to make you feel small. All they have to do is withhold warmth, attention, or acknowledgement in a way that leaves you exposed and confused. You're left scanning your memory, trying to figure out what you did wrong. You replay conversations. You analyze your tone. You assume responsibility for a problem that was never explained and was never meant to be resolved. I experienced this firsthand in a relationship where public settings became stages for quiet humiliation. I was expected to attend social gatherings, celebrations, and family events, only to be emotionally abandoned once we arrived. No argument, no explanation. Just a deliberate absence of engagement. Standing next to someone who refused to see me, respond to me, or acknowledge my presence. It was a punishment designed to make me uncomfortable and uncertain. To make me feel responsible for fixing an invisible problem. The setting didn't matter. A wedding, a holiday, an afternoon out. The emotional atmosphere was poisoned all the same. And because there was no overt conflict, I was left carrying the discomfort alone, trying to smooth things over so the day wouldn't feel ruined. This is how narcissistic hatred infiltrates everything. It creates a sense that the environment itself is wrong, tense, unstable. And because most empathetic people want harmony, they instinctively try to restore it. They work harder. They become more accommodating. They apologize for things they don't understand. And in doing so, they hand over even more power. Narcissists understand a painful truth about relationships. The person who appears to care less often controls the dynamic. By acting indifferent, detached, or unbothered, they force the other person into pursuit mode. You start over-functioning emotionally, trying to re-establish connection, while they sit back and observe. What you don't see in that moment is that this indifference is an illusion. They need your emotional investment far more than you need theirs. But they structure the relationship so that you never realize that. Their hatred makes you feel like you're on probation, like you failed some test and now have to earn your way back into safety. And the more energy you pour into fixing what feels broken, the more they are being fed. Your anxiety becomes their supply. Your confusion becomes their control. This cycle can last for days or weeks. And by the time you realize how drained you feel, they've absorbed your attention, your focus, and your emotional labor without giving anything back. Most people misunderstand narcissistic hatred because they assume hatred creates distance. But narcissists hate in a way that demands engagement. Their resentment is interactive. It's meant to force your participation. They don't want you gone. They want you tethered. And they don't keep this hatred private. In fact, they often make sure it becomes public. When narcissists turn against someone they once claimed to love, they don't just withdraw affection. They launch a campaign, a rewriting of history, a performance designed to control how others see you. Their closest relationships are the most threatening to them. Partners, children, siblings. These are the people who have seen behind the mask. The people who know the inconsistencies, the lies, the cruelty. And in the narcissist's mind, exposure is intolerable. Anyone who threatens the false self must be neutralized. But simply cutting you off isn't enough. If you're allowed to exist with credibility intact, you remain a risk. So they attack your reputation instead. They spread stories. They frame themselves as the victim. They recruit allies. And they do it with confidence, because they get ahead of the truth. This smear campaign isn't just about revenge. It's about control. If they can shape the narrative, they can ensure that if you ever speak out, you won't be believed. And if enough people turn against you, they feel untouchable. I stayed silent for a long time, believing that speaking up would only make things worse. I tried to disappear. I tried to be smaller. I hoped that if I didn't react, the hostility would fade. It didn't. The attacks continued through gossip, public comments, and relentless misrepresentation. Even years later, the echoes remained. Because the smear campaign isn't just designed to damage your reputation, it's designed to keep you psychologically engaged. If they can't control you directly, they will control how others perceive you. If they can isolate you, force you into defense mode, and keep you consumed with correcting lies, they still have power. And the most insidious part is the trap it creates. If you defend yourself, you look defensive. If you stay quiet, the lies spread. The narcissist tells their version first, often exaggerated and dramatic, so that by the time you try to clarify, people are already suspicious. The more you explain, the more unstable you appear. And that's exactly the point. You exhaust yourself trying to restore the truth, while they sit back, watching the chaos they created. This isn't just hatred, it's domination. And as long as you are reacting, scrambling, and trying to undo the damage, you are still playing the role they assigned you. What keeps most people trapped isn't the narcissist's hatred itself, but the belief that it must mean something personal. It feels personal. It's meant to feel personal. The insults are specific. The punishments feel targeted. The rejection cuts straight through your sense of worth. But narcissistic hatred is not a response to who you are. It's a response to what you refused to surrender. The moment you stop shrinking, stop complying, or stop supplying them with the emotional regulation they depend on, you become a problem. Not because you did something wrong, but because you disrupted the role they assigned you. Narcissists don't hate you because you're flawed. They hate you because you're autonomous. This is where people make their biggest mistake. They try to fix the hatred. They seek fairness. They want to be understood. They hope that if they explain themselves clearly enough, calmly enough, kindly enough, the narcissist will finally see the truth and soften. But that hope is exactly what keeps you trapped. You cannot reason your way out of narcissistic hatred. You cannot earn your way back into safety. And you cannot make a narcissist love you in a healthy way. Their emotional system does not work like that. Every attempt to repair, explain, or prove yourself only reinforces the dynamic where they hold power and you remain reactive. The shift begins when you stop asking, "How do I make this stop?" and start asking, "Why am I still participating?" Narcissists thrive on engagement. They don't care if that engagement comes from love, anger, fear, or desperation. As long as you are emotionally invested, they are fed. This is why hatred is so effective for them. It keeps you activated. It keeps you focused on them. It keeps you circling the same emotional drain, hoping for relief. And this is also why trying to win their approval never works. There is no finish line. No amount of compliance will ever be enough. The moment you meet one demand, another appears. The moment you sacrifice one boundary, the next one is targeted. Narcissists don't want resolution. They want control. Many people believe the narcissist has all the power because they appear indifferent. They seem unbothered. They act like they could walk away at any moment. But that indifference is a performance. It's a manipulation designed to make you chase, to make you doubt your value, to make you work harder to earn scraps of connection. The truth is far less flattering for them. They need the relationship far more than they let on. They need your emotional energy, your attention, your reactions. Without that, their internal world collapses. Their sense of self depends on external regulation, and that's the secret they never want you to realize. The person who truly has power in a relationship is the one who can walk away emotionally. Not in anger, not in resentment, but in neutrality. The one who no longer needs to be seen, understood, or validated by the other person. This is why emotional detachment is so threatening to a narcissist. When you stop reacting, stop explaining, Stop defending yourself. Something fundamental shifts. Their insults land nowhere. Their silence loses its sting. Their smear campaigns feel distant instead of consuming. They may escalate at first. They may push harder. They may become louder, colder, or more dramatic. Because when their usual tactics stop working, they panic. But if you stay disengaged, the dynamic breaks. Even if they continue to hate you, even if they continue to talk about you, even if they continue to rewrite history, it no longer matters. Because their hatred only has power as long as it affects you. The moment it doesn't, they lose their leverage. This doesn't mean you hate them back. Hatred would still be a form of attachment. It would still mean they occupy space in your emotional world. And that's not freedom. That's just the same trap in reverse. Real freedom looks like indifference. Not coldness, not bitterness, just absence of emotional charge. They become irrelevant. Their opinions no longer define you. Their narratives no longer dictate your reality. Being hated by a narcissist can feel overwhelming, especially when it comes with public humiliation, isolation, or betrayal. But you were never hated for being inadequate. You were hated for having limits, for having needs, for refusing to disappear inside someone else's dysfunction. Their hatred was not something you could have prevented, and it is not something you are responsible for fixing. It was inevitable the moment you stopped being useful in the way they demanded. The goal is not revenge. The goal is not proving them wrong. The goal is not winning people over to your side. All of that keeps you tied to the same battlefield. The real victory is disengagement. When you stop defending yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you, when you stop managing the narcissist's perception of you, when you stop trying to control a narrative that was never honest to begin with, that's when your energy comes back. And when your energy comes back, clarity follows. You start to see how much of your life was spent in reaction mode, how much emotional labor you carried, how small you made yourself to avoid conflict that was never avoidable. Narcissistic hatred is a form of enmeshment. It only works when both people are emotionally connected to it. The moment you step out of that connection, the spell breaks. You don't want to be loved by someone who can only love you when you're compliant. And you don't want to be hated by someone who needs your suffering to feel whole. Neither position serves you. The end game isn't healing them, it's reclaiming yourself. When they mean nothing to you, they lose everything. That is the moment you win. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. If this resonated with you and you're ready to go deeper into understanding narcissistic dynamics, spotting manipulation early, and learning how to create boundaries that actually protect your peace, there's another video on your screen right now that YouTube thinks you'll really benefit from. Go ahead and click it. It builds on everything we talked about here and takes you one step closer to breaking free for good. This is how you start creating the life you deserve. I'll see you there.